Irishmen from all over the 6 countries were taken from their homes. Hundreds of these men are now in prison without trial. This song is born of the civil resistance campaign which has followed internment. A song dedicated to the men in Rokesh concentration camp, the men behind the wire.
Children dragging color from their beds, at what was happening was captured in Grimaldi's own enraged shout at the troops. Grimaldi and his English companion Susan North took shelter in a flat, and he tried to take photographs from the window. He became not a reporter, but a British Army target.
That's a duty for taking a bullet. That's a duty for taking a bullet. Come. That's a duty for taking a bullet.
Yes, I know. I won't take any photos anymore.
The following day, on our News at 1:30 programme, Italian journalists described what he had seen on the streets of Derry.
I saw a man and his son crossing the street trying to make a safety with a handle on their head. They were shot dead. The man was shot dead. The son was, I think, dying. I saw a young fellow who had been wounded crouching against the wall. And he was shouting, don't shoot, don't shoot. Paratrooper approached and shot him from about 1 yard. I saw a young boy protecting his girlfriend against the wall and then proceeding to try and rescue her by going out with a handkerchief and with the other hand on his head. Paratrooper approached, shot him from about 1 yard into the stomach and shot the girl into the arm. I saw a priest approaching a fallen boy in the middle of the square, trying to help him during the last fight perhaps. And the army, I saw a paratrooper kneel down and take aim at him and shoot at him. And the priest just got away by laying his flat on his belly. I saw a French colleague of mine who, shouting, press, and raising high his arms, went into the middle to give help to a fallen person. And I saw again the paratroopers kneeling down and aiming at him. And it's only by a fantastic acrobatic jump that this soldier did that he got away. I myself got shot at 5 times. I was at a certain stage shielding behind the window. I approached the window to take some pictures. 5 bullets went immediately through the window. I don't know how they missed.
He concluded.
I saw people crying, old men crying, young boys who had lost their friends of 14, 13, 15 years, crying and not understanding. There was astonishment, there was bewilderment, there was rage and frustration. It was the most unbelievable. I have traveled many countries, I've seen many civil wars and revolutions and wars. I've never seen such a cold-blooded murder, organized, disciplined murder, planned murder.
One young girl who saw a number of deaths was Geraldine Richmond. During the course of an interview for this programme at the time, she told Kevin O'Kelly about a double death close to where she was standing.
We were standing over, only about 5 hay later, you know, the fat man was bleeding because Chassie couldn't fight it no longer. That's when the other man squealing at him, so this fella, he was squealing at him and dying, will somebody come and help me, will somebody come and help me. And he had a white handkerchief in his hand, and he held it up. And we said, don't go, because they'll shoot you too. And he says, no, none of that white handkerchief, they won't shoot me. But he got shot through the head.
I looked back at my shoulder and I saw a woman being on over by a sergeant who was doing straight at her, and I saw blood spurting from his boy's chest out through her shirt. So I crawled back over and there was a young nice muffler and myself, and then Minister Glass right this body and almost died instantly. Just everything. That was very good introduction. You satisfied this boy wasn't firing the gun? No, absolutely not. He was running just beside me doing something I was doing, trying to get as ready for as fast as he could. There was no problems by the army for it. Anything that the army said that is absolutely untruthful. I this present case that I saw completely from the start of his way of eyes. I'm prepared to swear this. I hope I have an opportunity to do it in front of some international tribunal. There's certainly, I have no doubt whatsoever, I state this absolutely categorically that there was no shots fired at the army prior to them opening fire. And the army fired for a few minutes. I just don't know how much I was lying there out in the courtyard beside this little boy in the next morning. I don't think he was weeping at anything. I was weeping too, whether it was with fear or just the whole horror of the thing. I saw another boy over about 20 yards from beside the guards and felt being hit and he tumbled over and he screamed and one of his legs was up grotesquely in the air and running around. As I say, I'll never forget it. To be quite honest, I was too frightened to go over to him. I was just stay for a little while with. And after that, then 2 other civilians crawled out with white handkerchiefs and they took up position beside us out in the middle of the flank's courtyard. to be sort of side track and the stone person helicopter around me. I got up in front of them and we came to crouch and we had to handkerchief that was covered with blood and went across in front of them and along Chamberlain Street. He was carried by these other men and through the army lines eventually we got to Waterloo Street. And there I managed to get an ambulance taken to hospital. He was dead.
In Dublin, the reaction was disbelief mixed with rage. Here is one step which Conor Cruz O'Brien recommended.
I think if those, the people who did this are identified, that they should be put on trial for murder, as happened with American officers and men responsible for similar actions at My Lai in Vietnam.
A British reporter in the immediate area of the killings was Simon Winchester.
As I was running away, I stopped behind a leather wall, just by the angle of the Roscommon flats, and I saw about 20 of the paratroopers dismounting from their vehicles and taking up sniping positions. So I ran through underneath the stairs and out to the other side of Roscommon flats, and I heard a fusillade of shots, and I saw one chap, a young boy in blue jeans, blue denim top, fall to the ground. I continued running and ran up the grassy slope, up some stairs and up a grassy slope to about 20 feet above behind the flats. And I saw the firing continuing. I saw two other people fall. One man was obviously only injured. There was a lot of blood coming from his legs, and two, including the first one I'd seen shot, appeared to be lifeless. I myself was shot at 2 times when I was up on this vantage point, as I say, about 20 feet above the flats. I went around so I could get a better view of what was going on, and an army sniper at the corner of Farnham Street, I think it was, fired 2 shots at me. At least I felt they were at me. Certainly I saw the puff of smoke and I heard the bullets whine above my head and chip some masonry away from a concrete wall behind me. I saw some people moving forward towards the troops with their hands above their heads, one of them waving a white handkerchief. Then there was some shooting, which I must say I assumed at the time came from the army, because they all ran away from the positions where I knew the army to be, and they fell to the ground. There was complete panic, and I must say I take strong issue with what happened yesterday. I had only heard the single shot at William Street. I must add, of course, hear some automatic fire and some 2-2, some small bore fire later, but a good 2 or 3 minutes after the British SLR fire began.
There are 2 pieces of full-view Grimaldi's tape which give some indication that, as Simon Winchester said, a single shot may have been directed at the soldiers but a considerable time before their assault. In the middle of the sounds of rubber bullets and gas being fired, you can make out what seems to be an isolated rifle shot. It's generally accepted that in the middle of the British attack, one civilian did fire a revolver shot. It's actually confirmed on the Grimaldi tape. Again, it's difficult to make out without repeated listening, but it's the voice of a young man complaining about the futility of trying to take on an army of 18,000 with a handgun, and saying that it had led to another young man being shot by the British. Some of the actuality from Bloody Sunday in Derry. Tony Dunmullen is author of Eyewitness, Bloody Sunday, The Truth, a collection of accounts of the shootings gathered at the time, but buried for decades later. Most were not even read by the Witchery team, and only a handful of the witnesses were actually called to give evidence. The evidence he gathered played a central role in the document sent by the Irish government to the British counterparts as part of the case for a new tribunal. In a moment, his assessment of the new inquiry, but first his reaction at hearing the news.
Listening to the tape, I have to say that I still find the memory of Bloody Sunday very, very traumatic, and I find it very emotional. You know, hearing those songs being played back to me again, even after all these years.
But what did you feel as you heard Tony Blair's very measured speech announcing a new tribunal? As I was mentioning earlier, Bishop Daly was quite emotional about it all.
Yeah, well, I was actually sitting with the families. Obviously, they have nursed a great hurt for, you know, coming up to 26 years. And they listened to it with a certain subduedness, but also with great dignity. But I think there was a sense that Tony Blair was making an historic statement. And indeed, it was a very brave statement, we know, against a lot of opposition, both within his cabinet and from the Ministry of Defence. And I think what he has done certainly helps us to move the situation on.
Will the tribunal have the necessary powers, do you believe, to make as full an inquiry as possible and to get at the truth insofar as possible after all these years?
Well, again, we're into a new realm now, and that's where our lawyers now will begin to take centre stage more and more. I know that in the very near future, perhaps this week, that Peter Madden, the legal representative of the families, will be travelling to London to meet Lord Saville and perhaps representatives of the British government to begin to examine the ground rules, to look at the terms of reference, to see if the inquiry will have the power to subpoena witnesses and their full disclosure of documents. And certainly one thing that the families will have great difficulty in agreeing to will be confining the inquiry. It has to be looked at in a wider context. For example, Lord Wittery made no reference to the fact that the march on Bloody Sunday was in opposition to the introduction of an internment without trial. I always believed that Bloody Sunday was a political decision. I believe it was a last gasp effort of the old Stormont regime to, one, kill the civil rights movement, two, to flush out and destroy the IRA, and three, to so traumatize my community that we would be beaten back into submissiveness for another 2 or 3 generations. Of course, the opposite happened, and sadly, Bloody Sunday was a terrible injection in terms of the violence which ensued for 2 decades later.
It was never the case that you and the other campaigners argued that no shots at all were fired at the British Army that day. Will the tribunal be able to deal adequately with that aspect?
Well, we're in a very strong position again, Jerry, in that we have nothing to fear from the truth. And if there are paramilitaries in our community who have something to answer, then we will be demanding that they come forward and tell the whole truth. Now, again, in my book, Eyewitness Bloody Sunday, I do make reference to the fact that people like Father Davy did see a lone gunman pull out a revolver and fire some shots. Some of the eyewitnesses would give credence to the fact that there may have been another gunman nearby. Now again, I think those who were responsible for particularly the official area at the time will also and should also be subpoenaed to answer questions. But I think one of the problematic things that Grimaldi's tape throws up is that we should not assume that all low velocity firing was coming from the civilian side, because I know that there's one of the wounded who's very clear that he was shot with an officer using a handgun, and that's where tapes like Grimaldi's and also Jimmy Porter's intercepted radio messages will really have to be clinically analysed as part of the tribunal.
Don Mullen.
Murdered Patrick Sargent, age 21. Murdered Jack Studdy, age 17. Murdered Bernard McGuigan, aged 41. Murdered Kevin McElhenney, aged 17. Murdered, Hugh Gilmore, aged 17. Murdered, Michael Kelly, aged 17. Murdered, John Young, aged 17. Murdered, William Nash, aged 19. Murdered, Michael McDade, aged 17. Murdered, William McKinney, aged 27. Murdered, James Ray, aged 23. Murdered, Gerald McKinney, aged 35. Murdered, Gerald Doherty, aged 17.